Before we move on to the next section, which I'm going to take a look at JSON and data representation and how we can use it, I just want to take a step back. Over the last couple of videos we've been looking at really just how PHP and HTML mix together. The last video in particular I think was maybe a little bit confusing, splitting up the PHP, but that's quite normal. But I did mention in that video that we didn't need to do that. We could have just put all of this form into one echo statement, and if we did that, then we wouldn't need to split up the PHP as we did. Basically, it's just a matter of choice, taste, whatever you want or whatever you feel comfortable with. In the end, again, depending on your project, you might not have HTML at all. You might just have something which is data-based and sends data to your phone. You wouldn't want HTML at all. Then again, you might be producing a web page project, in which case you would need the HTML. So I'm going to go back to what I mentioned on how you can actually put all of this into one single echo statement, print statement. So first thing I'm going to do is have a new file, because I'm going to copy all of this code. I don't want to delete my original code. I'm going to just copy this code and edit that so that we can see what's happening. So first thing I need to do is save it, otherwise I'm going to lose all my colors. Save as, and I think I'll just call it index2.php to keep it nice and simple. Got all my colors back. So the point is here is that I don't want to sort of split up my PHP code into 2 bits. I just want to keep it as one solid piece of PHP and lose the HTML by actually typing out an echo statement. So here we go. The first thing I'm going to do is in the else clause, I'm going to type my echo statement. And with that, I'm going to use 2 single quote marks. I could have used double quote marks. The problem is that I've got a lot of double quote marks in here, and that would really impact badly on the string that I'm building. But I've got no single quote marks, so actually this is going to help me a little bit. So there we go. I've got my blank echo statement, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy each line, Control C, and paste it into my echo statement. And remember, with PHP and HTML, it doesn't really matter. Unlike Python, there is no the white space just doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to take the next line, Control C, and I'm going to paste it after that. Control V, and then the next line, I'm going to copy that and paste it in there. Make sure that you paste it inside the quote marks, otherwise we'll have a problem with the string. Next line, copy that. This is where it starts getting a little bit awkward, why you might not want to do it in this fashion. The line is getting a bit too long to manage. And finally, I think it's that one. There we go, inside the quote marks, and I have now copied all of this and put it into one single string, okay, which will get printed out on the web page. So now I don't actually need these 2 items. Okay, I don't need to end my PHP and then do some HTML, then start my PHP to finish off the last character. All I need to do is delete those and I'm fine. So there's the else, the start of the else, and there's the end of the else, and there's the end of my PHP. So this actually looks quite neater. Okay, it makes more sense. Let's just rearrange things a bit so I can see them. It makes more sense because we can see that if something is true, do this statement, and if it's false, do this statement, all in one PHP block. We're not splitting it up and losing the sort of meaning of what's happening. However, we now have complicated it, because we now have one single string which is going to be our web page, which is quite long, and if we've made errors, it's going to be rather difficult to trace them down there, particularly as we've lost the use of colour as well to help us know what's going on. So it's just a matter of choice how you do it, how you build it. They are absolutely identical. So if I save this, and then in my web page, if I, instead of blank, now I've got to actually use the file name explicitly because it's not index, it's index2, so I've got to use the file name explicitly. I'll explain one thing that's going to happen that you'll find useful. So there we go. Index2, I've got my form, which was here. So it's printed out the form exactly as before. If I submit it with nothing at all, okay, it just gives me the form again. But notice that as well as having the variables with nothing in, it has gone to index 2. It didn't go to index. Remember, I said that if we didn't put anything in the action part, that it would call the file itself. Well, before we were in index, it hasn't called index, it's called index2 because that's the file it's in. And if we actually give some values, Fred, and then click submit, of course it prints out as usual. So this is identical to the previous version. These two are equivalent, okay? It's just a different way of writing them. This is a preferred method if we're just using PHP, because it's easy to see the two statements, the true and the false statements. This is probably a preferred method if you are going to really include HTML in your project. So the next set of videos, I'm going to start taking a look at JSON, what it is, how to use it. So let's see if we can get there.